Well, unfortunately, I have to give a very somber update and disclaimer for this video. The AirForce Texan air rifle did not and will not make it even into the testing phases. A lot of times gear just doesn't make it. I do gear reviews, you guys know that. I do some of the most honest, forthright gear reviews out there, and this particular air rifle, although it has all of the components, all of the technology, all of the capacity and potential to be something incredible, they just did a really poor job on design and engineering. Hey guys, Greg here, Bone Tactical. Today I'm going to be putting together the AirForce Texan LSS air gun here from Palm Beach Air Guns. 454, going to be putting an Arkin optics scope on here, and we have also the air compressor. So if you haven't seen a 454 air gun, it's the real deal. They can take down big game. Pretty awesome. So although the air gun itself is really cool, this design of how the air tank goes on there is just really, it's very poor engineering. And this little tiny wrench that they give you to put it on with, it's almost like they put the tank on as an afterthought and then put a gimmicky, buttstock on the tank. And for the price of this air gun, I'm really just very disappointed at the quality of engineering that goes into everything up to the tank, and then the tank just kind of, the actual system where the tank fits onto the gun is just really poor engineering. And the key that it comes with, the wrench that it comes with, is really not sufficient to do good work. And so, first impressions, that's a big deal, and that really just kind of, it's sad and it's a shame to see out the gate that there's something so glaringly wrong with the design of the air rifle. But let's continue on. So we're going to be mounting an Arkin optic scope on my AirForce Texan LSS 454 Wampin air gun from Palm Beach Air Guns. Let's get it started. Two really important things to remember when mounting a scope are leveling the scope with your scope rings, and then of course with your rifle. In the case of this air rifle, it uses the air rifle standard dovetail, so I had to hunt around for some rings that would fit my awesome 1:8 by 28 Arkin with the monster 34 millimeter diameter. Really a top of the line scope that you could get for this rifle, and just not going to be lacking in the glass department with this one. So really great scope. Number two of putting a scope or mounting a scope is Loctite. You want to use Loctite on those screws on there so nothing moves. And an old country boy trick is to use a little bit of pine tar or pine sap on the inside of the scope rings themselves. You want no movement when you're zeroing and when you're trying to reach out and touch somebody from a long distance. So, when mounting an awesome scope like this one on your air gun from Palm Beach Air Guns, remember three things. Always use the right tool for the job. Always use Loctite, medium strength, so you don't get any movement in your scope rings or scope. And always level your scope to your rifle. Another little pro tip here is if you've got a really nice scope like this one from Arc Optics, put some scope protector rings on there, like these flippets from Arc Optics as well. Because when you're out in the woods, you don't want stuff banging into your glass, especially if it's nice glass. And I hate to see that, because I could have done so much better with the technology and tooling and equipment and capacity that this company has to make such a better rifle that wouldn't be susceptible to breaking. The actual, it's so thin, there's a connection point right here where it's so thin, the handle broke off while I was trying to get the air tank off. There's a castle nut wrench that comes with it, is absolutely terrible. It's just a little thin piece of metal that does not allow for real use. All I did was, and the air tank here has a castle nut that holds it on, very similar to an AR buffer tube, but just a wildly inferior design, because I just screwed this together by hand. Now the fit and finish must have had some sort of a conical or a mismatch between the threads on the nut and the threaded section, male and female adapters, the castle nut and then the tube, that just by hand tightening it, it got so tight that I was not even able to get it off with the really junky wrench that it came with. And I would really like to see, for such an extremely expensive air rifle, I would really like to see at least some decent engineering, and at least something that would be semi well thought out and robust. This system with the little piece of metal on the back as the buttstock just looks like they put the air tank on there as an afterthought. And then the actual system where you just have a castle nut and a set screw, really just not a good design. It could be so much of a better interface between the air tank and the gun itself, and then even the positioning of the air tank is really poor if you're only going to have the air tank sticking off the back of the gun. If I have to sling this and I'm going through the woods and wanting to do any hunting, the air tank, carbon fiber air tank with this weak connection, is going to be beating on everything that I go through. And then a grip that I was just trying to get the air tank off by hand and put my hand here on the side so that I could torque with a wrench, and the actual grip broke off of the gun because it's only tiny little pieces, 4 tiny little pieces of some kind of aluminum alloy right here holding the grip on, along with a polymer, very thin polymer finger guard. So it's just really underbuilt. I know that they wanted to go for weight reduction, but you don't sacrifice the strength of your rifle for weight reduction. Furthermore, how cool that they have a suppressor, but this barrel length makes the rifle unwieldy and front heavy to the point where it's almost unusable. This rifle cannot shoot 1,000 meters, 1,500 meters, 1,600 meters. It can't shoot much over 100 meters, if it can even be accurate out to over 100 meters. So having a rifle that you can't carry around with you and that you have to do all this craziness to set up that is not accurate to a long range is just craziness, right? I understand wanting to put a suppressor on there, but do a better design, okay? They have, like I say, they have the technology here. The function and the idea behind it is great, but it's just too finicky. What this actually is basically a rich man's toy that you have to be extremely careful not to break it, setting it up and everything. Everything's finicky. And I've got the Umarex as well, and the Umarex is just, I thought the Umarex was a little finicky, but I didn't knock it for that. But I said, you know, hey, this is a technology that's still developing, but it works great. I took it out in the field hunting with it, had no problems. And then this design is just, it's just not, it's still a prototype technology is what we're looking at here, because these guys although they could have made it better, right? Had I been on their design team, I would have loved, and you know, hey guys, reach out. I will help you, no charge, absolutely free. I would love to help you bring this prototype type firearm or prototype type air gun with all of the amazing technology up to a usable and effective level where it can be something that your customers can rely on. Reach out. I'd love to help you guys with that. But unfortunately, this particular model is not worth the Arc and Optic scope I'm putting on it. Very disappointing. Had a lot of big plans for the testing of this, but it will not make it into the testing phases. This is now junk to me. It's getting scrapped. And very unfortunate, just very unfortunate. I saw a bunch of red flags putting it together and didn't make it past putting it together. So I have to share that with you guys, letting you know this is a really cool air rifle, right? I'm not knocking it. It's just not for everybody. It's really only for the guy who wants to be extremely careful putting this together, right? And then the fact that mine didn't fit well between the castle nut and the air tank was a big red flag for me. And so from that point, I just didn't want to risk anything if there was going to be a problem, because you're talking about 3,600 pounds of air pressure on here. And then the tank, right from the get-go, the tank wouldn't fill. So the tank nozzle was malfunctioning, and I actually had to pull the nozzle to the extended position and hold it while I was filling the tank, which is actually extremely dangerous. I have seen guys die from exploded scuba tanks, and you do not want to be having to hold your tank open while you're filling a tank. It's absolutely insane. So what we've got going on here is a product that it's at the cutting edge of technology, right? But you have to take into account, and the truth about the AirForce company is that they're putting out a product right now that is not, in my opinion, safe for use. And this has been sent to me for a review. Thank goodness. I'd be extremely upset if I paid money for this with the price that it is. And well, it's not going to make it into the next phase. Sorry about that, guys. Thanks for watching. Bone out.